All right, we are live from Modest Brewery. Had a good crowd out here, some diehards watching the Wolves. I wish it would have been happier news, Ryan Kostecka, because that was not the result anybody in Minnesota wanted from game one of that series.
Look, I'll be honest. I'm happy we're at a brewery right now. We could all use a drink after tonight's performance. That was rough.
It was different. You know what? I heard when we did the test here 2 days ago. I had the Oklahoma City score right. I had 114 for Oklahoma City. I had 120 for the Wolves in my mock test, though, and that did not come to fruition tonight, did it?
No, not quite. I mean, 120 points first off against that defense, that's asking a lot. But tonight was for the Wolves tonight, you have to flush this. This is not the game that you were expecting to play. Not even the first half, even though you're up by 4. There's so many things to break down from tonight's game that just made it seem that the Wolves were never really in control. And Oklahoma City looked much more comfortable. And to put it simply, the Wolves kind of they looked lost in the moment. They looked a little shell-shocked. Pressure was too much for them.
Yeah, whatever it was, and they kind of looked like this in game one of the Warriors series. So maybe I'm willing to give them a little bit of a pass here. Say, hey, they'll find their legs. They've been off for 5-6 days. They just didn't look like they were playoff ready. But I really thought that game was almost, strangely enough, lost in the first half when they were only up 4. Yes. After how bad Oklahoma City looked, after how many opportunities they had to push that to a 10, 12-point lead, to only be up 4 at halftime and to have, Jaden McDaniels get in foul trouble right away in the third quarter. Oklahoma just went on one of their runs, and it was game over at that point.
The name of the game in this series is going to be turnovers. Turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? Minnesota finished with 19 turnovers, I believe, or 17 it says.
Yeah,
that's
17.
just, I mean, when I think close to 20% of your possessions end in a turnover, that is not going to get it done against a team like Oklahoma City, who likes to get out, likes to push his tempo, is phenomenal in transition. And a lot of the turnovers were, in a sense, self-inflicted. Just the Wolves, kind of got I guess how you say it, they weren't exactly prepared for what was coming at them. They weren't ready for the angles that that Thunder were going to throw them, from where the different players were going to come from.
Right.
A lot of kind of, single ball, putting your head down and trying to go.
Yep.
Not a fan of the way the Wolves played tonight overall. I thought Finch really struggled. Randall was great in the first half, and that's pretty much the only positive you have of the entire game if you're Minnesota right now.
But they shut him down in the second half. He only had, 8 points in the second half. He didn't attempt a shot till late in the third quarter, I feel like. He was really shut down. They started putting different defenses on him. Anthony Edwards, I didn't feel like he was necessarily aggressive enough in this game. I don't know how they were guarding him. He finishes with 18 points, just 3 assists. He had a minus 23 in the game. He had another injury scare. So,
yeah,
I mean, those guys were pretty good in the first half, though. They kind of tapered off in the second half. They didn't get any help, though. The bench, again, is the story. Naz Reid didn't score till the fourth quarter. He finished 1 of 11. DiVincenzo 3 for 14. Nickeil Alexander-Walker 3 of 11. Combined, they were 5 for 26.
Yep.
5 for worse than that. 5 for 28 from 3-point range. I mean, I thought going into this series that those guys were going to be a key, that they're going to need more from their bench. They didn't get that from them tonight.
We've talked all season long, and especially in the postseason, what makes the Wolves so special is they are legit 8 men deep. They have different ways they can beat you. They can throw different bodies at you. They're able to play in so many different ways, and that's why they've been so successful. But if you think about it, I mean, take a big picture look of the postseason. Apart from Naz Reid's, I think game 1 against the Lakers in the first round, the bench has not played very well as a whole. Yeah. They really haven't. It's been the defense. It's been, Julius has been great. Ant's been great. They've got to find a way to just, pull themselves out of this. They're getting good looks. That's the frustrating part, is that they are getting good looks shooting the ball, and they just can't get anything to drop. When Dante DiVincenzo leads you in shot attempts, that is not a recipe for success at all. I think, like you said, Randall and Ant have to be more than 13 shots a game. They've got to get to that, 17 to 20 range, honestly. And the other guys have to come down if they're not shooting as well. They need to be more aggressive, Ant especially. I mean, this was a game where he looked very passive as a whole. He didn't necessarily play bad. He just looked way too passive. And if you are, who you say you are, who everyone in the league believes you are, you have to find a way to get the job done.
Yeah, I agree. Someone here in the audience, as we were watching the game, stopped us on the way out and said, basically, he thought the bench was the key. It's like Oklahoma City shot well from 3-point range on their bench, and the Wolves just didn't get anything from their guys off the bench. And Oklahoma City rolls deep. They can roll 10 guys sometimes, And I think that showed tonight, even though they had to play 7 games against Denver, they didn't seem like they were tired, fatigued. They took a little bit of a time to adjust, I think, to the series, but I don't think they didn't show any panic in that first half. They were just, I think they thought, hey, for as bad as we played, we're only down 4, and then they just kind of rolled in the second half.
Must be nice to be 22 and 23 years old, right?
Seriously,
gosh,
right?
I mean,
Seriously,
to come off a 7-game series like
right?
that and play as fresh they did and run away with the second half is very impressive. I mean, you're the Wolves. You shot 15 of 51 from 3. That's less than 30%.
Less than 30%.
Right. So you should take 30 more three-pointers than the Thunder, yet you only make more than 4. I'm sorry, but you have to. That has to be more than a plus 12 differential. It really does. That's not going to get the job done for them.
Wolves fans already with the conspiracy theories on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, got some early whistles. It's driving people crazy. It drives me crazy a little bit. This is going to be a hard series to watch from a certain standpoint, just because Oklahoma City plays a certain way, Shai plays a certain way, that it's going to be kind of a muddy series to a certain degree. And can the Wolves kind of get down into the mud? I thought they did a good job getting down into the mud in that Golden State series. They weren't ready for this level tonight.
No, they were clearly shell-shocked by the defensive pressure that Oklahoma City provides and what they throw at them. I do think, though, for the most part, the Wolves actually, I wasn't upset with their offense. I was upset with some of the turnovers they had, but they got a lot of very, very good looks. Nothing fell for them. No. And you could tell at that point they started to do press more. And where they did struggle is that when the shots didn't fall in that second half, they started to press a lot more, which allowed Oklahoma City to kind of up the pressure more. The Wolves tried to do a lot of stuff one-on-one, and they were starting their offense way too late in the shot clock. They've got to do a better job of getting things going 20 seconds, 18 seconds into it, instead of really kind of figuring things out the 10, 12-second mark. That's not the way this offense is built. No. And this offense has to adjust. I mean, Chris Finch, I think he struggled tonight.
Yeah. He called some good timeouts, I thought, to try to stop those runs in the third quarter, but he didn't have the combinations. He put Clark out there. I liked that.
Oh, but great in the first half.
But yeah, whatever the combinations were, and I thought he was too slow to get Ant back in the game in the fourth quarter. There were some things where it's like, you got to push some buttons to get back in this game. They just didn't.
I think at certain points, too, I mean, there's no excuse why Ant and Julius Randle should be off the court at the same time. There's absolutely no excuses that should ever happen, and that was happening tonight. I do think when Jaden got that 4th foul in the third quarter, early third quarter,
huge. 2 quick fouls,
point, you have to, I get that, you want to preserve McDaniels, but what's the point of preserving him if this game's already out of hand going into the fourth quarter? Yeah. I would have rolled the dice and put McDaniels back in, if nothing else, just as more of a confidence boost.
Sure.
Hide him on Dort, hide him on somebody else. Don't put him on SGA or Jalen Williams. So I think there are definitely some adjustments that need to be made by Chris Finch. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I thought Dagnall was phenomenal in the second half. Like I said, the Thunder being down 4, even going into the half, the Thunder felt better than the Wolves did.
Well, they really limited Randall in the second half. They had a much better plan for him. I want to get to a couple listener comments before we get to like adjustments for game 2 Thursday. By the way, Thursday we will be back here at Modest Brewing, so everybody should come out. Much nicer night. It'll feel like maybe summer or at least spring in Minnesota. Not a lot of people wanted to be like out tonight. But we still have a good crowd, good fun, interactive crowd. But
and Post Malone and Jelly Roll will perform tonight at US Bank. Can't miss that. Coach Jet says, "Why? Just why? Why do I do this to myself?" We already got some down in the dumps, folks. Trevor Frank said the same thing. Why do we do this? And he said, why don't we try to get buckets closer to the basket? Most of the categories were close tonight. Points in the paint were very lopsided. And I thought, well, I mean, that's kind of by design, though. I mean, if you look in the first half, part of the reason the Wolves were so successful is that I thought they did a great job of getting into the paint.
And then kicking a lot of times.
Yes, they did a great job of breaking down their defender when the Thunder collapsed. Usually what the Thunder do is when they collapse defenses, they try to force a certain way. They try and force the ball to go to a certain place, and then they rotate out of it. I thought the Wolves did a very good job of keeping composure when they got into the paint and then kicking out. It was really impressive, and that's why they hit those threes. That's why they got so many open threes to start the game. And I think I'm okay with losing the points in the paint. You live with that if you're knocking down your open threes.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference right there.
Yeah, and they just weren't making shots. And some of it I felt like was they started rushing a little bit in the second half. They were pressing. They're like trying to get it all back, like trying to get on one of those little runs where they make a bunch of threes in a row. When they're not falling, you start taking the first one instead of making the extra pass. DiVincenzo, I think this whole playoffs, DiVincenzo's been trying to do too much. He's just been trying to do too much. I think he needs to kind of settle down and find his game. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was okay tonight. He was a plus in the first half, but he was not making shots either. Like, if those guys aren't going to make shots, this is going to be a long series.
It is. Well, actually, it might be a quick series at that point.
Well, I was going to say,
but it's
long in the sense of tough for them to
win. Once we were watching the game and watching with the fans here at Modest Brewing, I thought that there was that one part in the third quarter when DiVincenzo brought the ball up, and he launches a 30-footer. 4 seconds into the shot clock. And
that was the possession.
I get what are you doing? It's kind of like a riddle. You're kind of stepping into it, but still, that is not a shot you want to take. And then there was the one, he got a great kick out by Randall in the corner. No one near him, and he kind of goes to fake a pass to the the wing when there was no one near him, and then he felt like he had a rush shot, allowed the defender to get out to him. So he's clearly kind of off. He's not comfortable right now within this offense. No. That's going to be a real problem for Minnesota moving forward. They have to do a much better job of understanding, what they're capable of and taking the shots they've taken all season long, and that got them to this point.
Exactly. By the way, I love this. Just noticing on our live stream, it looks like we're still on a split screen because of the way because of the way things. But we are on the same camera. We're in the same spot. So I love how it kind of looks like we're in our own little panels right now. But we are definitely not in the same panels. Oh, I just lost one of the questions I was going to get. It was about. GH Moore wants to know what the heck was with Finch not playing Gobert in the fourth, not enough generally. Also, wouldn't it have been better to bring Clark back in after Jaden got all the fouls called on him? I kind of agree with that.
Yes.
That might have been the time to go to Clark. He kind of waited a while to go back to Clark, and at that point, you're kind of chasing points, and Clark's not really a guy to chase points. I might have gone there quick, although I do get it, too, if you're not 100% sold on Clark and you're worried about Oklahoma City going on a run there, if you're looking for him for more like energy and not like, hey, we got to stop this momentum. I kind of get that. You go to the guys you trust, but he was good in the first half, and he's been very good against Oklahoma City all year.
Well, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough call for Finch. I think going to Clark probably was the right move, but overall, I mean, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he was 1 for 8 at this point, but he was a plus 14. So, make that make sense. He was doing the right things that you want from this team. But at the same time, I thought Jalen Clark gave great minutes off the bench. I thought his energy off the bench, great job rebounding, great positioning. He does the little things that you need in a series like this. I personally would have gone back to Clark in this moment, and really rode Randall and Edwards offensively, and you have Clark in defensively. As for the first part of the question about Gobert not playing in the fourth quarter, I thought Rudy struggled tonight. Rudy just, he got the 2 early fouls, before
it was like 2 minutes in.
If that, right?
It was less than 2 minutes
right away. So that, I think, really hurt Rudy. He never really caught a rhythm. He never really had a feel for this game. He looked out of sorts everywhere, even just on his rotations defensively. He just looked uncomfortable out there. I still don't understand why he can't ever grab a ball with 2 hands. I mean, I've covered him Utah.
Looks like he's playing volleyball out there. Just bat the ball around. Just grab the ball, Rudy. Just grab it.
So I understand Finch not going back to Rudy. I actually thought he probably should have pulled Rudy earlier, to be completely honest with you. And at that point, you have to have Mike in there for the offense, but if Rudy's out, I'm not sure what Mike really brings you as much.
That's true.
Especially if he's not really shooting the ball particularly well.
No.
So I probably, when Rudy came out, I would have, pulled Mike as well and kind of ran with the 6-7 man if you include Jalen Clark the rest of the way.
Lynn wants to know, how do you get DDV, and Nas to pull their head out of their beep? Conley is washed. I don't think he's washed. Hate to say it. Ant needs to show up way too passive. Ant thing, I tend to agree. He seemed to struggle tonight with the coverages they were putting on him. Mostly that they had a lot of guys, kind of like the last series where Jimmy Butler struggled because they had so many guys that they could cover him one-on-one. He wasn't getting to his spots. Like he was struggling to get just kind of into space. And he the thing about Oklahoma City too is like when he gets past that first line of defense, which he was against the Lakers certainly, and sometimes against Golden State, there was nobody there to meet him at the rim. In this series, they've got the defense on the perimeter and the rim protector. So he's going to have a much harder time if he's not shooting well. And he shot okay tonight, but in a game when he's not shooting well, to kind of like play himself into it just by going to the bucket. He's not going to be able to do that all the time. He's going to find some in-between stuff, some distribution, stuff like that. He's got to find a different level to his game than what he had in those first 2 series.
I agree completely. And, part of it, too, is you are the superstar of the team. You are one of the best players in the league. If you are not shooting the ball, you don't feel like you have a rhythm, attack the rim, get to the free throw line. That is what Ant needs to do more of. I mean, he finished what? Did he take free throws tonight? I can't even remember. He took 5 of 7 free throws. So 7's a good number. I do like the number of free throws he took, but as a whole, he's got to get to the rim more. He's got to get to the paint. He's got to attack more to find a rhythm. And, I get he wants to make the right play, get his teammates involved, kick out to 3. But at some point, you are still the best shot. If those shots aren't falling for your teammates, a difficult shot for Ant is a better shot than probably what you're getting from DDV, Nah, and Nas at this point.
How many free throws did SGA shoot, by the way?
14.
11
of 14.
14 free throws. He finished, 31 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds. I mean, he's undoubtedly
3 steals.
Very talented player. But that whistle, it's going to drive them crazy all series. They got to learn to play through that because it was bothering them early in the game. And, probably for good reason, but you're not going to win that battle. This is not new. This is not something that's just happening to them. This is something throughout his entire season, his entire career. He's good at it, and they call it, and you got to get over it.
It's something you just have to accept if you're Minnesota. This is the way it's going to happen. SGA is one of the most interesting players I've ever seen. He's both herky-jerky and fluid and smooth at the same time. It makes 0 sense, but
no, it makes
it's kind of artful watching him.
Right.
But if you're the Wolves, you have to live with the calls he's going to get. You can't let that affect you. And I think personally, let SGA cook. This is what I would do. Let him do his thing. Don't let anyone else get going. Jalen Williams getting going is really going to hurt the Wolves moving forward, and that's an adjustment they definitely have to make.
Speaking of adjustments, let's finish there. What else do we need to see? I mean, they lost by 26. The second half was 70-40. It was ugly. Not all hope is lost. They lost game 1 of the Warriors series, but hey, in that series, Steph Curry got hurt in that game, and then they kind of rolled from there. They had some games against the Lakers that were not pretty. They lost to game 2 against the Lakers in LA after, so they've had these nights where they can't get going offensively. I just feel like this is a different caliber of team they're facing. I think they know the formula.
Yes.
And they played mostly that formula in the first half of this game. Can they do that consistently enough to win 4 of the next 6 games?
I mean, I make an argument that the formula actually was correct for the entire game. I really like a lot of what they did. You just got to find a way to get your role players going. I mean, if those guys start knocking down the open threes, I'm really curious to see, when the real numbers come out, how many of their looks were considered open or good looks.
Right.
I'd be really curious to know that number. But if the Wolves can find a way to get some of their role players, get Mike Conley, get these guys being a little more consistent from 3, something they've done all season and, apart from the postseason struggles they had, but since they kind of got back on track, that's the recipe for success. That's what they need to do. So if I'm, you make small adjustments. I think Finch can tinker with the rotations a little bit.
Yeah.
Jalen Clark needs more minutes. If Gobert is in early foul trouble, he's going to be he might be useless the rest of the game. So there are some small adjustments you can make, but as a whole, I do like what the Wolves have done. Dagnall's a very good coach, though. OKC is a very well-coached team. They are physical defensively. They do a great job of pulling the chair out,
Yeah, they did
and
a couple
they
times,
really defend as a unit.
Yeah,
5 people at once. So I'm really curious what adjustments the Wolves make. But if it's me, I stick to the status quo a little bit as far as getting to the paint, attacking the paint, and kicking out to your open shooters.
Game 2 is huge. It's Thursday night in Oklahoma City. I mean, this series, this is where they can make it a series or feel like, man, where are we going from here? So
exactly,
this is. I mean, they haven't really been in. They've been in this spot against Golden State, but it felt different.
It did.
This is the most. I think this is going to be the most pressure they've felt in the playoffs so far as Game 2 in this series. Now, I don't think they've kind of felt the backs against the wall. But they got to win this game. And they've got to feel like they can win this game in a hostile environment against a very good team.
This is by far the most pressure they faced since Game 7 last year against the Nuggets.
I agree with that.
It's a series. I mean, I know Wolves fans, you want to struggle. I get the Minnesota curse. Everyone believes in it, but at the end of the day, it's just one game. Doesn't matter if you lose by 1 or 40. It's still just one loss. Minnesota comes out, takes care of business. It's a whole different vibe and feeling 1-1 coming back to Minneapolis. You can't afford to go down 0-2. I'm really curious. Ant's got to step up. It's got to be on his shoulders.
Yep. All
right.
You're
the star.
Cool. Come join us Thursday at Modest Brewing. We'll be back here. Thanks for watching on the live stream or listening on the podcast, and we'll talk to you later.